to introduce Larry. Larry Rosen is both an attorney and a computer specialist. He's a founding partner of Rosenlaw and Einschlag, a technology law firm located in Los Altos Hills and Ukiah, California, that specializes in intellectual property protection, licensing, and business transactions for technology companies. He's also served for many years as general counsel and secretary of the nonprofit Open Source Initiative. He advises many open source companies and nonprofit open source projects, including Apache Software Foundation. He serves on the board of directors of International Characters and on the advisory boards of a number of companies. He has a book, Open Source Licensing, Software Freedom and Intellectual Property, published in 2004. Before he became an attorney, Larry was a computer technologist. He managed computer activities and taught computer programming and database design at Stanford University, and later went into industry where he had a variety of experiences in the computer and technology field. And Larry just has a whole lot more valuable background, but given the time, rather than continuing to introduce him, let me simply turn the floor over to Larry and let him tell you his story developing commercial products for open source platforms. Larry, thanks very much for being here this morning. And Larry, due to the timing constraints, we will not be taking questions at the end of this talk. Rather, we'll deal with questions over lunch outside on the foyer. So questions, save your questions for over lunch. Larry, welcome to STC, and we're eager to hear your
Thank you very much. I want to apologize for being late. I tried to make up for it by driving fast, and fortunately I did not get a ticket. And please don't treat this as an admission that I speeded, but I did. I'm glad to be here today to try to give a picture of how open source can be used, open source software can be used to develop commercial software. And I think from what I know, I'm sorry I missed Richard's presentation earlier, but from what I understand, I think you will find that I am a little bit more receptive, perhaps is the word, to the use of open source software for commercial purposes. My assumption is that the people who are trying to build products are trying to make money off of them, are trying to find ways to incorporate open source software, perhaps to release open source software, but to do it in a way that enables them to have a commercial product out of it. And the other thing I want to focus on is the development of commercial products specifically on open source platforms. Now, Linux, of course, is the one that everyone knows about, but there are many others as well, and others that are going to be coming on in coming months and years. Java, for example, is a platform on which many open source, many commercial products are built. And so I don't want to focus specifically on Linux, but I do want to give acknowledgement to the fact that many of you are probably considering Linux as the basis for your commercial products. Now, I'm probably going to be talking to the converted here. Most people who study these things and understand open source software understand that open source software is not infectious. You don't catch it by putting software together with open source software. There used to be a lot of FUD about this in the past, but I think most people nowadays recognize that everyone, almost every software company in the world is writing applications that sit on top of open source software, and they don't get sick by doing it. But what is important, what has to be kept in context, is that free software, open source software, is not free of all obligations. It is not free of all concerns. What you have to do in developing products that are going to work on open source platforms is you have to make sure that you honor and respect the open source licenses. And I think generally there's a kind of naive assumption that all you have to do is to decide whether or not your software is separate from the platform on which you implement in order to honor the licenses. But there's more to it than that, and I'll try to explain some of the obligations that you ought to keep in mind, in addition to the source code obligations that you're probably most familiar with.